it's not a publicity stunt this time? This is the bit that has the streets wondering. Insiders are blaming Cameron himself for the footage that has surfaced of Chrissy Lee's secret and intimate relationship with Jim Jones. Was Cameron just going too far? What would have ruined his relationship with Jones, which lasted for decades? We're discussing backroom negotiations, missed opportunities, and a brotherhood that might have been a lie all along. It's no longer simply about the video. Have you ever witnessed two monarchs suddenly become adversaries? Or was it a premeditated betrayal meant to make Jim look as possible? Instead of keeping quiet, Jim is bursting on all platforms, letting off decades worth of pent-up anger. This is the beginning of the end, so don't blink, scroll, or click away. You would think that what you're about to learn would change your opinion of Cameron forever after all these years of street brotherhood and shared experiences. You won't be able to ignore the reality once you hear it. It's not only shocking, it's ugly. If Cameron were to become hip-hop royalty, he would have to abide by some unspoken norm. But it appears that loyalty dies in quiet, since what transpired was not only treachery, but radioactive. Let's back. Everything started with a leak, but this one was very explicit and hurtful. A private film featuring Ryde's longtime companion, Chrissy Lakin. After a few hours, Chrissy's face became popular, and the internet did what it does best: alter it in detective mode. At first, some thought it was a deepfake, and later they thought it was an ancient video, one of Jim Jones's most revered matriarchs, or die, suddenly surfaced on a dubious burner Twitter account with no followers, no tags, and no captions. Started to surface, TikTok comments went viral, and before anybody could confirm or deny the clip's legitimacy, Twitter was declaring, "Cam did it." However, why would Cameron post a video of that nature? How could he benefit from sharing something so personal? Was it spite or retribution? Or was there something darker simmering behind their alleged? Since wasn't the first time that Cam and Jim had a falling out. Let's take a moment to talk about history. You see, Dipset wasn't quite as flawless as it seemed. Behind the vibrant bandanas and eye-catching music videos, there was quiet rivalry about who truly led the crew. Cameron, the charismatic mastermind; Jim Jones, the heart and street muscles, well as ongoing conflict, power struggles, and backdoor business strategies. As their kingdom expanded, more fissures emerged. Subtle barbs in interviews, cryptic Instagram stories, and passive-aggressive rhymes were interspersed with explosive moments. Like the well-known 2017 Hot 97 interview, in which Cam disclosed everything from internal rivalries to financial betrayals. Fans were confused as Jim cried, but Cam remained composed. In the early 2000s, Chrissy was a fixture on the scene, not only as Jim's companion, but also as a savvy businesswoman who is making real moves. Do you recall that? We return to that trauma in 2025, but this time it involves Chrissy, family, and not music. The past between Chrissy and Cameron is what exacerbates the situation. In hindsight, that might have been the beginning of the silent, simmering animosity that developed over decades, and Cameron might have just let it happen with a single leak. At the time, it seemed like innocuous barbershop banter. Rumor had it that Cam disapproved because he believed Chrissy was dictating Jim's business choices. According to some, Cam even attempted to convince Jim to let her go so she could concentrate on her music and become less domesticated. The video was taken more than a decade ago, according to people with knowledge of the situation who talked to us anonymously for safety. Somehow, it was a private moment that was never meant to be seen. However, one insider says the footage was stored on a now defunct Dipset, which makes the situation even more suspect. Days before the leak, Cam and Jim were spotted together at a Rock Nation brunch, posing for pictures, joking like old friends, and even making references to a possible Dipset reunion tour. May have been accidental or the result of intentional retaliation. Additionally, Cam is accused of stealing a hard drive that was only ever accessible by a small group of people, less than 24 hours after the video went viral. Fans flooded Jim Jones' Instagram story with comments that said, "It's Cam. He did it. Dipset is dead forever. Jim is going solo. Watch, the leak actually originated from Cam's camp." Jim Jones added a black screen to his account with just 3 words: "I see you." Was it planned out? Was he planning to drop a bomb and act nice? Jim was not silent for long. "Family is not touched by you. My wife is not someone you toy with. That video wasn't accidentally delivered to me with malicious intent." Emojis were flying out of the comment area, and many were crying. In just a few minutes, Jim's uncensored, unpolished live feed drew over 120,000 views. There was only anger and sadness. No PR staff, no script. "What you people say doesn't matter to me. From the beginning, this man has been envious of me." Jim went on by bringing up old business, but even devoted Dipset fans were picking sides. "This is the same dude who told labels I was unreliable and refused to give me tour money in 2011. You want to put the responsibility on Chrissy after I held this group down? You are a complete clown." It was now a public declaration of war rather than merely a personal betrayal. Opinion pieces, podcast segments, and Twitter conversations about whether Jim was exaggerating or if Cam had gone too far were all over the internet. Even worse was the fact that Cam said nothing, which the public interprets as an admission. Chrissy Lampkin, meanwhile, has a reputation for going 10 minutes without saying anything. Toes Down in All Storms made a unique approach by archiving all of the images that included Cam, unfollowing him on all platforms, and posting an enigmatic message on our account. We all felt that was betrayal at the soul level, but some of the wounds were too deep. There were no names or faces. To make things worse, an anonymous source disclosed even more horrible details. Purported text messages between Cam and A. The worst aspect is that Cam hasn't said he didn't send the texts, so it's unclear if he actually did it. Why does he not defend himself? When your name is being dragged through digital purgatory, why not speak up? Or maybe Cam was aware of this. Before a major business deal, a secret industry acquaintance was talking about a scheme to leak something spicy to damage Jim's reputation. Eventually, he would be ready to set everything on fire. But just when we believed that mayhem had peaked, something even more surprising happened. Things took a wild turn, and just when Jim Jones thought he had exposed every secret Cameron might be hiding, further betrayals surfaced like a web of lies. Oh, sure, the SMS messages were sincere, but the real kicker is that the leak involved more than simply the video. These alleged texts between Cam and an unnamed industry insider, according to those acquainted with the situation, paint a far harsher picture. In them, Cam talks of planning an entire smear campaign to damage Jim's reputation in addition to destroying it with a single video leak. The right amount of dirt can break him down. Let's hit him where it hurts. His woman, his money, his fans. That's right, his woman, his money, his fans. All the things Jim Jones holds dear were now tools in Cam's sick game of revenge. The purported message from Industry One also claimed that this industry friend advised Cam to keep it low-key. But Jim's Instagram Live didn't just change the rules, it changed the strategy. Fans and industry insiders were starting to question whether all those years of devotion were simply a botched business arrangement. And the public's opinion of the team was about to suffer significant damage. There were facts, half-truths, and assumptions on the internet. The topic of discussion shifted from the video to Dipset's whole legacy. For now, let's stand back a bit. It would be the most premeditated act in hip-hop history if Cam did leak the tape as part of a bigger scheme to ruin Jim. Imagine eliminating a brother who has committed the greatest personal betrayals. Would be detrimental to both his job and personal life. Is Cam responsible for this? Was he trying to force Jim out of Dipset? An intentional attempt to take back control of the group. but his private life in the B process without saying a word. When fans looked into Cam's past and found some troubling patterns, the fact that he didn't face it straight away just served to stoke the flames. Fans discovered multiple old photos of Cam with other rappers and his ex-friends who had been thrown out after they were no longer needed, in a Twitter thread that shocked the internet. He was enjoying the show when it became apparent that Cam wasn't just recognized for, but there was a catch. They wanted to control the story, profit from the dispute, make it public, and make it into a program. They even attempted to set up the supposed reconciliation between them. The Puppet Master's ultimate goal was to intensify the antagonism to the point that the two ex-brothers could never get back together. But it was more than just business. It was personal. It was the ultimate betrayal. So, is Cam Jim really in control of everything? Or is there a darker force at work? Regardless of the truth, we have only just started to explore the implications of this dispute, which will affect not just their friendship, but also their music, fans, legacies, and lives. This is now about more than just Jim and Cam. It's about the devotion, betrayal, and ambition that define the hip-hop world. The industry as a whole shudders at what happens when two legends split ways in the most terrible way imaginable. So, the destruction in this amazing story is not just personal, but also public hand. By public, we mean explosive. As the world saw this feud intensify, something even more terrible surfaced. The financial consequences of this betrayal were beginning to sting more severely than any lyric or diss track could. Those close to Jim and Cam, who recall taking part in a number of profitable business ventures, started to divulge this dispute in the industry is hurting people in their closest networks, including managers, publicists, former label executives, and others. It's terrible. Terrible. For instance, it is said that Jim Jones had multiple endorsement deals placed on indefinite hold. Both men suffered a significant financial loss. Fair partnership with a well-known luxury brand was put on indefinite hold because the company didn't want to be linked to the ongoing drama surrounding his personal life and couldn't afford the scandal that was damaging his reputation. In Cameron's case, it seems that his attempts to resurrect his solo career hit a roadblock, and business partners were fleeing him in large numbers, unsure if backing the rapper was the right thing to do. Even stranger than the possible PR catastrophe were rumors about unmet contracts, questionable financial practices, and even a claim that Cam was being sued by a former label boss for allegedly mismanaging money. Cam and Jim had to make some tough choices quickly, or else they would both die, demonstrating that the drama was about more than simply the music. After losing everything, the lawsuits, the true business part of the consequences came. As if a legal storm had just come, there was a rush of charges, rebuttals, and settlements. Jim Jones claimed to have sued Cameron for slander, which was the first defensive action taken. The allegations included emotional distress, conspiracy, slander, and defamation resulting from the leaked footage. Insiders claim that Jim's legal team wasn't holding back and was ready to fight it to the end. Even more shocking was the rumor that Jim was asking Cam to publicly apologize and pay millions of dollars in damages. The assertion's audacity surprised even the most seasoned attorneys. In contrast, Cameron wasn't only with the intention of ignoring this. He responded by claiming that Jim had been extorting him for years. He said that after utilizing their friendship to steal money and sway business transactions, Jim was now looking for a sizable payout for himself. In the midst of all this turmoil, legal experts predicted that this case may go on for years, and public perception of both men continued to deteriorate over time. The fans who have stood by them from the beginning, who know every word, who wore every Dipset chain as if it were their own, are the ones most impacted by this catastrophe that is destroying them. At first, fans couldn't decide who to believe. Some sided with Jim, saying Cam had gone too far, while others argued that Cam had every reason to feel duped after years of seeing Jim play a supporting role. even while the underdog narrative was in full force. It was difficult to ignore the growing divide between the two factions of Dipset supporters until the bombshells. As fans discovered more about the plot, their enthusiasm for it waned. Jim's emotional collapse upon the release of leaked video footage went viral, with a particularly disturbing video showing him questioning his entire career. "Is this how they really feel about me after everything we've been through?" he muttered as he glanced at his phone's screen. However, Cam showed no interest and was silent once more. He wrote in a tweet, "The truth must be told, even when it hurts sometimes." Just a calculating, cold comment with no apologies or explanation. That was the only thing he said in public. People's perception of him as a cunning, self-serving businessman who will stop at nothing to maintain power grew the longer he remained silent. Some fans left the band, but others defended their favorite rapper on social media. After the whole Dipset fanbase split, the industry took action. He knew the impact it would have. The more they argued, the less influence they had. The deterioration of their unity was the fault of both men. The question was whether they could ever mend the damage, or if their acts had permanently damaged the legacy they had created together. Now, let's talk about Chrissy, Jim's longtime friend and the primary object of this entire argument. As the narrative went on, her name kept coming up, and the mud, too. It was evident that she had been criticized by the public and was connected to this catastrophe. Rumor had it that Chrissy had been aware of the treachery before anybody else, but at the time, nobody understood that she was more than just a victim. Some even asserted that she had seen the tape before to its release and had been pressuring Jim to act against him. Whether or not Chrissy was involved, her involvement simply added to the intrigue surrounding this tragedy. Was she only a pawn in this game, or did she have personal reasons for remaining silent while things collapsed? The most terrible part is that it was about their families, their reputations, and everything they had built over the years, not just the men. The longer this went on, the more people who had previously supported both men were now avoiding them, because they didn't want to get sucked into an uncontrollably heated argument. The question that now needs to be answered is if Jim and Cam can ever get back together. Whether this disagreement really signifies the end of the Dipset era and the legacy they left behind, or whether there is any chance of reconciliation. Their reputations, as well as their place in hip-hop history books, are under jeopardy after years of production. However, despite all of this, the question remains, is there any possibility of a settlement while the music industry waits? The number of lawsuits rises and public sentiment changes. One thing is certain, though. The story is not yet finished because the last chapters have not yet been finished. Here's the real query, and I want to know what you think. In this case, who is at fault? The truth of the strained bond, the conflict between Jim Jones and Cameron, and the explosive fallout that is causing the hip-hop industry to tremble. Was it Cam's treachery or Jim's own greed and desire that started it all? It remains to be seen who will win this great battle between betrayal, broken bonds, and brotherhood. If you enjoyed this in-depth look at the chaos